in this world, and most precisely how we can efficiently use the budget we have for our DevSecOps program or any security program in general. So before we start, I would like to express my thank you and my gratitude to all the sponsors and hosts for this conference, AT University, OS New Zealand, and all the sponsors of the conference. Like the slide says, without them, this conference could not happen. So a big thank you to everyone for supporting the InfoSec community. It's bit about me. I am working as a senior manager application security assurance at Netscope. My team is responsible for security testing and DevSecOps functions in Netscope. I'm also author of 3 open source projects, which I have presented in multiple conferences like Black Hat, DevCon, OS. I like pretty close to my heart as an organization. I'm also OS Pune chapter lead from where I'm presenting right now, and an OCP as well. This is the agenda for today. First, we are going to do a crash course about the DevSecOps program, what, why, how, because that topic itself is a big enough topic for any talk. So we are going to quickly glance through it just to set the context of the presentation. Then we are going to dive into the topic we are covering today, which is cost, challenge, and cost analysis of a DevSecOps program. Then I'm going to share some optimization tips and techniques which has helped me as a team or my organization to wherever I've been part of the programs, and what were the learnings of that. And then I'm going to share 2 use cases which we did as a team, and it helped us as an organization, and I'm hoping that it would help you to get you some context. By no means these use cases are the comprehensive coverage of the overall surface of the optimization we have. I just put 2 from the reference perspective. So what is DevSecOps? I think everyone in this room has an understanding of how it works. It's been in industry for a long time. So in a very simply put, DevSecOps is a function where development, security, and operation teams are working together to make sure that the software as an organization is delivering to the end user is secure and their data is secure, which is one of the key requirements from any customers right now, that our data and our product has to be secure. So DevSecOps is a methodology is an approach where you're making sure that all 3 different pieces of your teams, of your organizations, are working together to make sure that is happening. Why? The very first reason is that we are developing software more fast and more frequent. And what it means is that the gated concept of security is no longer valid, and to adopt to that speed, it's imperative to use to work collaboratively as a team, as a different teams, to build software faster and secure. It's like a well-known truth now that we have to adopt that way. How? It works on all different levels. It's not just a technical problem or technical solution to make your software secure. It's about cultural as well. It's about your process. It's about your organization hierarchy. It's about how different teams are placed. It's about what's the business of your organization, so on and so forth. So it works on all levels of people, process, and technology, where technology is technical aspect of the DevSecOps program is one piece, and then we have the process piece of it, and then we have the people piece of it, which is I'll say the most important and most difficult part of the DevSecOps program to figure out for an organization. So this is a very high level, a typical DevSecOps pipeline, I'll say, look like, where you have integration of the security in different development lifecycle phases. For example, in coding, you have while your developer is coding, you have SAST, check, you have SCA check. While your test and scan is running, you have your test scanning or your network scanning. When you have your deployment, then you have your JFrog X-ray running into the artifact integration, so on and so forth. Once it's in the maintenance phase of the software, then you have multiple vulnerability management softwares running, and scanners are running to make sure that your software is getting periodically scanned, so on and so forth. So this is what a very high level, like I said, it's more of a crash course just to set the context of the presentation going forward, that how our DevSecOps program looks like, why we need it in a current timeline, and how it's done on the organization level. Cost challenge. I think the problem statement is very simple. It's just the solution and the implementation piece which gets tricky. So I have a limited security budget. I will bet that no one in the team have heard of that ever. It's just ironical. Um, this is what the cost challenge is. That, and to be fair, that no department has unlimited budget, but in case of security, we have, I'll say, very limited budget when it comes to the implementation, and the reason for that is I'm going to explain in next slide. So in today's time, we have enough data to prove that business demands, like I said, software is fast, secure, and frequent. I mean, if I have to give an example, that I'm sure nobody is even aware what version of Gmail they are using. It just seamless to the end user. Nobody is aware that what features are getting loaded, unless you are a very acute observer of the features and all. For most end users, it looks pretty much I'll say smooth from the business perspective. So that's how the demand of the software is going on. Technologies are growing at an unprecedented rate. AI, everybody must be aware, it's getting adapted very rapidly, and all of this is becomes organizations are operationally complex. Um, each organization have a different way of operating, and within the organization we have different departments, and then each department has a different way of operating. Like I said, in case of DevSecOps, each function has to work collaboratively to make sure that their end software is getting deployed. Software security skill gap is real. It's primarily because of the fact that the gated concept of security has been obsolete, which means that as a security professional, we need to adapt to the new technologies, new skill sets, which is understanding how the software development lifecycle works, so on and so forth. Security is tough. We being security professional can truly relate to that. And on top of that, budget is always limited. So all of these points lead us to a scenario where we have to make sure that we are securing our software faster, frequent, and in a complex environment with a limited budget, where we also have a challenge of skill sets and so on and so forth. So all of these points leads to the overall cost challenge of it. How does the cost analysis looks from different team perspectives? So more often than not, when we are having a conversation or a discussion or a friendly chat with someone about the cost part, it's mainly emphasized towards the security team cost, that what it takes to build a security team. That's what the cost is, which is true, which is one piece of the overall cost analysis. You have to build the security team, you have to maintain the security team, and then it's an expensive process. Market is challenging. Like I said, security skill gap is real, which means is that if you have to, which you should target in the skill gap, you will have to figure out in your expenses and so on and so forth. Space is growing, which technology space, which means that security team has to be on top of the technologies all the time, because what it means for a security team is to understand the technology first and then how it can be secured. So it's always a two-phase process. Contextual understanding, I'll explain about this topic in the next slides, where what is the risk to the organization. So it's a very well-known and well-discussed topic, severity versus risk analysis. and then the security team has to get the understanding of the business, and then in order to understand the context of the vulnerability or any security gap, and then provide the recommendation according to that. That is the cost to the security team, which is true, which is one piece of that. The second part is the cost to the product teams, and when I say product teams, I mean any other team than security. It could be your development team, it could be your operation teams, it could be your SRE team, it could be your, let's say, marketing team, so on and so forth. So what happens is, if secure I'll just give you an example. Let's say security team is doing the contextualized analysis. What it means is that security team is giving vulnerabilities only which actually is going to impact the business. In that scenario, what will happen is that your product team is your engineering team is focusing time on fixing the vulnerabilities which actually matters to the department, to the organization. But if that is not happening, then if we have a quote unquote scan and give all the results to the engineering team, what it means is that your engineering team is also investing effort and resources to look at the findings or fixing the vulnerabilities which you can afford not to fix. So that is, and what it means is that if your engineering team is working on things which you don't need to fix right now, they are essentially not working on the features or the new products which will expand your business. And it's a cyclic loop. As you grow in your business, as you earn more money as an organization, the better your budget is going to be. So as a security professional, we have to understand that fact, that we are impacting the business one way or other, in I'll say more than one ways. What it means is that if we focus on the fake or the things which actually matters to us, it will eventually free up the time or will provide an opportunity for the other teams to actually work on the product and grow the business. It brings to this question which I keep chatting with my colleagues and friends, that security is cost center or a profit center. There are both sides to it. I as a security professional would like to argue that it's a profit center. Only challenges, and it's a big challenge, it's very difficult to define profit in case of a security team. So that overall, this question, security being a cost center or profit center, is what dictates that how the budgeting is going to be allocated to the security team. Fee optimization tips and techniques. Automation, like I know everybody keeps saying automate. But I think I personally think that this is the most overused and misused term in security. And one example of this, I keep telling my team, is that if you are taking more time in writing automation than it takes to do it manually, then you are missing the point. So when we say automation, it has to be an effective automation. It has to make the team more efficient. That is the fundamental purpose of the automation. So as an organization, always focus on the effective automation. Is this automation making your team or your organization more efficient? As long as it does that, it is serving the purpose. We can't just do automation for the sake of doing the automation. Another heavily misused term, shift left, which is, in my opinion, doesn't mean that we pushing security to the developer, because their job is to develop, not quote unquote secure. Shift left, in my opinion, it means is that the development and security teams are working together. And what I mean by that is there are two sides to it. First, security team has to understand the business and their software development lifecycle and provides security capabilities according to that business and SDLC. So security team now has to take an additional effort to understand the life cycle. And this is what I meant when I said the software security skill gap. Because now, as a security professional, as a, I'll say, AppSec or DevSecOps professional, it's absolute must to understand your development life cycle. You just can't be a AppSec professional without understanding how softwares are getting developed and deployed. That is one thing. Second thing is around the development teams. They also need to be proactive in terms of adopting that capabilities what security teams are providing, making it part of their life while they're developing things. Because more often than not, whatever security capabilities security team is providing, it's more about being part of the development cycle itself. For example, if you want to integrate, let's say, a secret scanning check in IDE, what it means is that the development team will get a, let's say, a pop-up or something to highlight whenever they have a secret identified. So it's the responsibility of development team as well to be proactive in that and adopting that, and more importantly providing the feedback and suggestions and complaints also whenever that capability is getting adopted. What I mean by that is, again, in case of secret, you might say that it's reporting 90% false positive. Then what it would help a security team is to understand that how we can reduce that. In a overall this back and forth communication, I know we are investing some time there as well, essentially some effort and some budget there, but eventually, like in case of effective automation, it's going to make the team efficient in the longer term. So two-person is spending time to fix something which is going to impact, let's say, 200 or 2000 people, is eventually going to save the cost. And third piece of that, there have been a lot of content about it already, where a representative from each team, at least a representative from each team of the different teams, which will basically serve as a point of contact to the security team. Different organizations have different namings. We call it security warrior, some call it security champion, and then evangelist is there, so on and so forth. Different terms are there, term doesn't matter. The point is that we have to have a security representative in each team. That individual will be, his or her day job is obviously doing that specific function. Let's assume he or she is a developer, then focusing on development. But he or she has some understanding of the security and can also communicate with the security team. Because, like I said, DevSecOps is not just a technical problem, it's a cultural challenge as well. And what I mean by that is the communication gap. The development speak developer language and the security speak security language. So we need someone who can bridge that gap and make sure that that communication is smooth back and forth. So if we need to have that program in the organization, because what it will help is that we are not wasting too much time in back and forth communication with the development team. For example, if I'm discussing about, let's say, accesses to the development, then he or she is going to speak in terms of the coding, and the security professional may or may not have that level of understanding about the coding, about that particular vulnerability. I know I said that the security needs to have an understanding of the development life cycle, but it doesn't always necessarily means that you are understanding it on the code level, that how to fix it. So that security warrior or champion will bridge that gap. Third point in optimization takes is the contextual analysis is key. Nowadays, industry is picking up, and this severity is not equal to risk ever. And what it means that if any organization targets to fix each and every vulnerability in the organization, then that program is bound to fail. It just doesn't work. We as an industry, as a security industry, not in a business of elimination of vulnerability anymore. We are about the reduction of the attack surface or reduction of the risk. For that, we need to understand the context of that vulnerability. every organization will have a different appetite of the risk. Every organization will have a different risk attack surface. Every organization will have a different understanding of each vulnerabilities. So as a security professional, it's key to understand the business and the context of business and then derive the risk of each vulnerability from that. So these are the 3 points which I think, in my opinion, will help to efficiently use the resources within the team. Effective automation, uh, shift left in a more collaborative way, and contextual analysis of the vulnerabilities. Okay. So now I'm going to explain one automation we wrote. We call it secret validator, which essentially means is that so just to give you the context, the problem statement was something like this: that we need to remove secrets hard coded in our code base in our SCM, which is GitHub. And the definition of secret is wide in this case. Like, it could be username and password, it could be API's token, it could be SSH private key, so on and so forth. Basically, any piece of string which provides some level of access to a target environment is what we defined as a secret. Now, whoever has executed a secret scanning project will relate to me that a typical secret scanner, you can use any scanner, that doesn't matter, is bound to have false positive, because how a typical scanner works is that they have a defined regexes for different types of secrets, and those regexes run, and then there are false positives on top of that. Like, in our case, we had millions of secrets to analyze. There is no way we were going to look at it manually. So it was a nightmare scenario from the analysis, from the analyst perspective. So and the second piece is that, obviously, what we discussed and decided as a team, that if secrets are not valid, again, the context is not there, then the reprioritization of the secret is required. So, and our objective was to automatically validate all the secrets what we have identified from our scanners. We had a bunch of scanners which were basically giving us output in forms of list of secrets and obviously the file in which they have identified. Our objective was to actually focus on secrets which are valid. Now, the tricky part to that is there are different scenarios against which you can validate a secret is valid or not. The first scenario is the easiest one, where you have a before that, in order to identify any secret, you need two things. You need secret or secrets and endpoint, and you will send preferably a API query and then validate whether you are getting 200 response or not. Now, the challenge was that in the first scenario, which was the easiest one, you have a universal endpoint, and then you have only one single secret. You pick that secret, you send it to the endpoint, you validate, you get 200, secret is valid. If not, secret is not valid. For example, GitHub personal access token. We have a GitHub universal endpoint against which we can validate, the easiest piece of it. The second piece of it was where you need multiple secrets against a universal endpoint. AWS secret ID and AWS secret key is an example of that. So what happens with the scanner is they identify the secret key, but we need a AWS secret ID in order to validate that. So what automation we wrote to identify the context is, once we have AWS secret key identified, we will go again in that impacted area to identify any AWS secret ID, and depending on where it will be located, we will say with a certain confidence that this AWS secret ID may belong to this AWS secret key. So, for example, if they are reported in like like just one line difference, then we are 98% confident that they belong together. If AWS secret ID is identified, let's say 10 lines above or below, then we will say we have 70%. So all of those algorithmic calculation of confidence was there against where it's identified. So that is that. So in that case, what we did is then we pick those and we send it to the endpoint. If it's valid, then again we feed it back to our validated system. The third case, which is more tricky, where we don't have an universal endpoint. For example, Jira Confluence. Every organization has a dedicated Jira Confluence for that. So in that case, again, we followed the same approach. We identified within the target environment, and depending on where it's found, we defined what's the confidence we think that this secret is valid. So using this automation, we try to identify the context, we try to identify how the secret is valid, and on top of that, we did the reprioritization of the secrets, how we are going to manage it. So for example, if it's valid, then we were making it critical. If it's not, then we are making it low, so and so forth. Second use case was the security warrior, where we had the top-down approach in terms of communication from each team, and found a representative, at least a representative. In some teams, we had more than one. And then we had the different training programs, guidance to onboard the security warriors into the program. They have different trainings which they need to go while joining in a certain cadence. We do every 6 weeks, we do sessions with all the security warriors to share the security news or whatever updates we have done as a team. Do they have any questions in person and virtual as well? We have dedicated communication channels for any added query, questions, feedback, to get a sense of the team, how they're feeling. So practically, what we have seen over the period of year, it took us like good 2-3 years to build that program. But now we are coming to a point where that security warrior group is practically working as an extension of our team, and security is followed right from the start. So now it has kind of become a muscle memory for our organization as a development function to think security while we are designing it. And key to that is that we need to have top-down communication. We need to have a continuous communication, continuous collaboration with the security warriors, and do as best as you can to meet them in person to get an understanding how they are feeling. Because I know that world is remote now, but me being classic example of that right now. But put your best effort to meet your security warriors group whenever you're traveling to any other offices and so forth. Yeah, so that is the for the security warriors. We are almost up to the time. That's all I have from my side. Thank you everyone for attending, and I really appreciate. And again, I would like to say thank you organizers for accepting it as a remote presentation. Really appreciate it. I know we don't have much time for questions, but I think I can take one maybe.
Yep. Am I on? Yep. Thank you, Pramod. That was a fantastic talk. We have a gift package that will be sent to you once the conference is over. Thank you very much for your time. We unfortunately don't have any time for you to take questions right now. Is there anywhere someone can reach out for you if they do have a question?
Yeah, this is my Twitter. My email address is there. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I will be more than happy to answer any question you guys have.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well, can we get one last round of applause for?
Thank you.